Welcome back to our channel. I'm Quincy.
And I'm Winnie.
Today we're going to be giving you our advice on college apps.
Let's get started. I go to the University of Maryland, College Park, and I will be a rising junior in the fall, and I'm majoring in communications.
I go to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and I major in sustainable development and anthropology. So just as a little preface for this video, both of us, we went to the same high school, and that was a college prep school. So both of us have had, a lot of opportunities from going to that school, necessarily be the opportunities of many people. However, beyond that, our financial situations have varied a lot. So our experiences with applying for college, they've been very different. The first step to applying for college is actually making the list of colleges that you want to apply to. For me, the main things that I paid attention to when I was applying was geographical location of the school, size of the school, so whether that's a big state school or a smaller liberal arts school, the cost of the school, and which sort of programs that they offered. I ended up only applying to 5 schools. However, I think I would recommend applying to slightly more just so that I had sort of a bigger range of affordability and location. But once again, that really is up to you. Ultimately, every school can offer you a really great education and a really great experience. It's just about if you want that big state school experience, if you want something smaller, if you want to go to school in a big city, or if you want something that's a traditional college campus feel. Just kind of getting to know that before you start submitting applications, because for most people, you don't have the luxury to go on the campus tours before you're able to apply. Looking online, really reading through the college's websites, you can go on YouTube and look at sort of like the college tours or the day in the life videos of people who go to that school and get a sense for what the campus life might be like, what sort of programs they have to offer. From there, making your list. And ideally, you would want that list to be more or less finalized. Of course, if you discover a school later on, totally add that, but probably before your senior year, just so that you can focus on doing the more technical parts of your application, like submitting the Common App or essays or things like that.
So testing, you have your SAT and your ACT. Both of these tests are pretty standard in terms of US applications for college, and it doesn't really matter which one you take. So you want to take whichever one you are better at. We both took the SAT just because we found that the pacing in the ACT was a little bit too fast. Both of these tests have versions that have essays on them, and those essays are usually not required for most schools. Really look into the schools that you're applying to and see if they're asking for that essay. If they're not, don't spend your time learning how to write it or going to take an exam that's already really long to write an essay at the end that you won't need. So the next thing is your SAT subject tests. I personally never understood why you need to take them. Most schools don't actually ask for them at all, and that goes into looking at which colleges that you're applying to and seeing if they're asking for those subject tests. If they're not asking for them, don't take them. They cost an insane amount of money, and if the college doesn't want it, you don't need to give it to them. The types of tests that the SAT subject tests offer are pretty much the same as a lot of AP exams. So if you're trying to show your college that you are really excelling in a certain subject, they will see that in your transcript and in your AP scores. So you don't need to be sending them SAT subject tests, because ultimately that really won't play a big role in your final college decision. So the last thing is your resources for your ACT or SAT prep. There are a million resources out there for both tests, and obviously the more access to those resources that you have, the better you will do on these standardized tests. But that being said, not everybody has access to every single type of tutoring or books and all of that. The big thing is finding resources that are affordable to you and also easily accessible. I know that I spent most of my SAT prep on Khan Academy's website, and then also the SAT prep book. Those are my 2 biggest resources, and they held me through really well throughout my studying for those exams. What we're gonna do is link down below all the different resources we can find on both tests so that they're free and accessible for everybody to use. The final thing about testing is when exactly should you take these exams? Really, that is dependent on you personally, especially like the math sections. You may not have learned all the math at the the beginning of your junior year, so you may not want to take this really important exam where you don't know all the information that goes into it. If by all means you have all the information, go ahead and take it, but definitely understand what you know already and take that knowledge into taking this exam. You don't want to be taking this exam more than you absolutely have to, but the earlier that you start, the more opportunities you give yourself to try again if you don't like the score that you get the first time around. So currently, COVID-19 has kind of thrown a loop in the whole college application process. I don't really know what's happening in terms of SATs because all of them have been canceled, so take all of these tips with a grain of salt. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to speak.
A crucial part of your application is your resume. This is, of course, a list of all of your academic accomplishments, your extracurricular accomplishments, any jobs or other things that you might have completed during your time in high school. The biggest problem I encountered when I was making my resume was that at first I really wanted to put on every single little thing that I had done, whether or not it was a random sport I had played in my freshman year of school and then had later quit, and I wanted to put that on my resume. What you want to do is create a story for yourself. So if you're applying to a specific degree, you want to make sure that your resume reflects the work that you've already done in that sort of field. And of course, at a high school level, that doesn't have to be extensive work, but you might want to highlight, if you're applying for, say, biology, any sort of awards that you might have won in STEM field, or if you had the opportunity to do an internship, putting that on, whereas something that you did, a club that wasn't as important to you, something that maybe you weren't in a leadership position of, you might not want that to be highlighted on your resume. Mainly, it's about giving the person who's reading your application a quick overview of you and what you would bring to that school, showing that you're an interesting candidate for their school, someone who would really enrich the campus life. Really just making sure that you put on your resume what's important, things that you think reflect your personality, and what you would bring to the school. Essays are a major part of college applications, and especially one that can seem maybe the scariest because it's something that you really have to put a lot of time into, and sometimes a single school will have 3 different essays that you want to write only for them. So that ends up being a lot of work, and it's a lot of effort to figure out what you want to write about, to have that edited by someone, and just to budget the time to take on such an intensive task. My tips for that is usually people will think, oh, you want to write some sort of sob story to make sure that it's emotional. And while there's obviously nothing wrong with doing this, if you don't want to talk about something traumatic that happened in your life, or if you can't think of anything that really happened that you would want to write about, then you don't have to. There are lots of parts of our lives that don't seem so interesting, like something that you would want to put on your college application. But it's not so much about the event or the topic that you choose, but how you present it. So what people are really looking for in the essays is to show how it reflects you as a person, and how you have learned from any experience in your life, how that has made you who you are. These essays are really a time for self-reflection and showing how much you know yourself, how much you're able to talk about the world around you. I know that most college applications are personal essays, and they're asking you, tell us something we should know about you, or say something interesting about yourself. And you don't need to write a sob story. I know that on a couple applications, it wanted me to talk about any sort of other piece of media that I had either read or watched lately, and wanted me to talk about that and what it was saying. Once again, that is just kind of the colleges looking at your critical thinking skills, your ability to reflect on yourself, your ability to reflect on other things, because that's what a lot of college work is it's critiquing something else or applying concepts. It's not just about telling a story. You have to tell a story and also be able to talk in sort of a broader sense about what it was saying. And that's what they're looking for on the essay.
Next, we're going to talk about affording college, which is obviously a really important part of your college decision. So when you're making that original college list, you want to make sure that you have your academic safeties, but also your financial safeties. A little backstory on my own college career. I originally wanted to go to the University of California, San Diego, which is out of state for me. And I did get in, but then they asked for 80 grand and I didn't have that. So I reluctantly chose Maryland, which is our state school, and I couldn't have been happier with that choice. Initially, I was not at all happy, but having spent 2 years there now, I'm not in debt, which I will be very grateful for post-undergrad. In terms of filling out your financial information for college, you want to file your FAFSA immediately. I believe that the application usually opens early October, and once that opens, you really want to get ahead and get started with it, especially if it's your first time doing it. There's a lot of information that you need to fill in, and a lot of it is like tedious but boring information, like your name, where you live, etc., etc. And it's something that is very important in terms of receiving financial aid. If you're trying to get financial aid from the federal government or even the actual school you're applying to, they need to have your FAFSA in order to determine your need and how much that they're going to give you. So you really need to make sure that you keep up to date with that application. So the last thing is to look into scholarships. There are a million different scholarships that are out there, and some of them are really random, that are offered by different companies or different organizations that, like, if you fit their criteria, and sometimes it's like you write an essay and you do it, sometimes there aren't that many people that you're up against and they'll just give it to you. The big thing is, if you know that you need financial aid or help in terms of attending undergrad, that you really want to reach out to all these different opportunities that are available to you, because there are so many. There are sites that compile all this information for you where you can easily just say, I fit X, Y, and Z criteria, and you can filter out the specific scholarships that are important to you. And we'll link down below all those different resources that can be of help to you. The last thing is, look for those schools that are going to be best for you financially. Ultimately, your undergrad degree is just a step in your college career and your education. Don't spend all of your money at one place when you're going to be making other steps in the future where you'll also need to spend more money. When I ended up choosing Maryland, I found that the state of Maryland offered this really amazing financial aid program, and they provided guaranteed grants that pretty much covered all of my need-based financial needs. And when you're applying to schools, particularly if you're going to look at your state school, it is very likely that your school also has that type of program where they're offering all need-based aid, or at least some financial help if you need it. And if you look into your own state's guidelines or rules or etc., there might be money that is set aside to help you. The final thing is, you want to be independent. When you're choosing your college path, you want to be making that decision for yourself. Obviously, you want tips and advice from everybody around you, your parents, your friends, your teachers, etc. But ultimately, the decision of where you go is up to you. You should be in control of your entire college process. It is up to you to be making your test dates. It is up to you to be studying for your SATs or ACTs. It is up to you to keep track of each and every single one of your application deadlines. Your parents are there to help you, and your friends are there to help you, and your teachers are there to help you. But ultimately, you need to be in charge of your own career path. You cannot have your parents make all these decisions for you. Your parents should not be reminding you of your deadlines that you have to make. You need to be aware of those on your own, because once you get into college, there's not going to be somebody standing next to you to remind you of every little thing you need to do. So we just want to say that we both go to 4-year colleges, but that is not the experience that everybody goes through, and it's important to note that. There are many different ways to go about your college career, and for some people that's vocational school, for some people that's a couple of years in community college and then transferring to another college. Whatever it may be, your experience is your own, and just because that one person has a specific experience doesn't mean that you need to follow that exact same path. Thanks for watching this video. We hope that all of our tips have been helpful, and
Any resources that we've mentioned throughout the video will be linked down in the description box. Like, comment, and subscribe.
bye.
Bye.